change the weather, you can't help the way you look. You can't pick your family or the ending to a book. But if you don't like the status quo, if you're lazy with the truth, then that is one thing you can change with a trip to the voting booth. You got to vote, 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 you got to vote. If you don't, that's all she wrote, you got to vote. The faces on Mount Rushmore, they're not going anywhere. Death and taxes are a couple things that we will always share. But if you feel that the way things are not how they should be, the fella in the office now has got no branches in his family tree. You got to vote, 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 you got to vote. If you don't, that's all she wrote, you got to vote. Coming this November, there's a chance to make a change. If the lady that you picked last time turned out to be a little strange, this is all about the future now and how they run the show. You're a customer, not satisfied, then it's time for them to go. You got to vote, 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 you got to vote. Yeah, you got to vote. If you don't, that's all she wrote, you got to vote. You got to vote, no, you got to vote. If you don't, that's all she wrote, you got to vote.
Hi folks, welcome to Walking on the Weene Side, part of It Matters Radio. Well, today it's been election day in the United States. Almost everybody has finished voting. Some of us, myself included, voted early. Not today. I always vote early. Not often, just once. But I vote early, usually by mail, because I want to make sure my ballot is counted. You know, a lot of people don't think it matters if they vote. They say, well, the parties are all the same. Nobody's really going to change anything. And, you know, they may even be right about that. Still, I vote. I consider it almost a religious ritual. Not so much because I necessarily believe that a particular vote is going to change the world. And in fact, often I'm voting for the losing side, so clearly it doesn't change the world. It's about something else. It's about my notion of the political process, my notion about democracy, my notion about society. I suppose I should start by telling those of you who don't know me personally that my father was a school teacher. He taught social studies, primarily American history. However, he taught another course in addition to history. It was a course called Problems in Democracy. Very interesting notion. One of the things that makes democracy different from other forms of government is that it is self-observing. In that way, it really exhibits a humanism that is unlike, say, theocracy or royal decree or dictatorship or even oligarchy. Real democracy asks of itself that it look at itself and that it see its problems, that it concern itself with its problems, that it look for solutions. Now, I don't believe for a moment that the United States, either in its foreign policy or its government or anything else, is perfect. For one thing, I'm too much of a historical nerd to believe that. Hey, we got all those dead Native Americans and those still suffering in really incredibly anti-human ways. We have the history of slavery and blacks. We have the Asians, particularly from China, who were killed after they served their purpose of helping to build our railroads. Goodness, and the list goes on and on. No, we're not perfect, and we have problems. The thing is, you see, we try to be self-observing. That's why one of the most important things in our system of government is freedom of the press. Reporters have, and editors, some have died trying to tell us what is real. Some have been honored. I grew up thinking Edward R. Murrow, for example, and his producer, Fred Friendly, whom I did meet, were gods. Lippman was another. Buckley, another. These were men, sadly not too many women involved because, well, we know about the unfairness to women in this country. But these were men who made us look at the questions, look at what the problems in democracy are. And for that, I looked up to them. I'm thankful that I read their work. I'm glad that I got to know their thinking. Now, I don't have a simple set of solutions to America's problems or the problems of American democracy. I would, if it were up to me, have a new third party taking part just to push us forward. I think that historically has been one of the great strengths of America. You know, we started out to be a party without party. Then we developed a two-party system, and those parties changed. For example, the Federalists disappeared and the Whigs appeared. Well, in large part, that was because of the whole notion of banking and national government and its role in the currency and in financing national development, infrastructure. Oh, then there was the Jacksonian Democrats who appeared in opposition to the banking, etc. And then later on, the Republicans came along, largely in opposition to slavery. And we really have to think about the progressives who actually rode to power more on their anti-alcohol, their pro-prohibition stance, than on their many other more positive for our society contributions. The thing is that third parties make a difference. Even those that fail along the way, like the progressives, they do make for real change. Well, we don't have a third party right now, not a viable, not a strong one. And so we are faced with the two parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, both of which have great failings. And we're not necessarily blessed with great leaders in either of them. There are a few, but an awful lot of the politicians are not people that I really want to support. Still, I vote. And I vote for the same reason that somebody who doesn't believe in God might still opt to go to church or temple or wherever and pray. You see, it isn't that we necessarily think our prayers will be answered or our vote will count, as much as it is that we want to believe that we as individuals matter, that we are, if nothing else, part of the system, part of the glory of it. If we're not, then what are we doing here? If, for example, we are denied the right to vote, why should we pay taxes? Why should we take part in the military? And perhaps even, why should we obey the laws? You see, if we don't believe that we're a part of the body politic, then the only thing that can keep us in line is fear. Now, there are views of mankind that start out with that. I always think of Hobbes' Leviathan, the idea that man is brutish, that we battle one another. And the only reason that we don't end up killing one another off is that there is this Leviathan, this stronger than everybody else creature called the king in many places, the Der Führer, perhaps in another place, who will make everything okay, who will keep things under control, and does so through fear primarily. Now, I'm not a great believer in kings, because in reality they do very little for most people, and besides which, it encourages them to be nasty, brutish, and greedy. But I also don't necessarily see human beings, my fellow humans, as being that way. Now, I'm not a Rousseauian. I don't believe in the noble savage. I don't believe we're all inherently perfect. I tend to take more of a view that we are competitive, that we are striving against one another, and that to a certain extent, what keeps us in check is mutual self-interest. I'm a utilitarian, a capitalist. I believe in those things. But I also believe that we need the government to make us coordinate with one another toward the greater good. And I think that when we vote, even though we may not like the outcome, it is affirming to ourselves that that's what we're doing. It's affirming to ourselves our belief, our trust, that somehow there is a process in which that which is selfish in us is tamed and directed. No, we're not going to go to Tombstone, Arizona, to do a gunfight at the OK Corral. Neither are we all going to lie back in some idyllic fantasy paradise where the government is going to come and peel grapes and fan us with great palm leaves as they feed us grapes. Now, what we're going to do, and this is what voting is an affirmation that we are going to do, is we're going to go on trying. For better or worse, we're going to try. And as we try, we have to, as I said earlier, look at the problems. Now, sadly, we have a lot of people in this country and in other countries who, because they feel like they haven't been treated equitably, because they feel that they haven't had an equal shot, they're angry. And they're angry, some at government for not giving them the equal shot, and some prefer to take it out on other people who in fact may have even less. It's a strange thing about us. You know, there's a saying, shit runs downhill. The weird thing about humans is we like to shit downhill. Even if we're in the middle of the hill, instead of trying to stop the shit falling on us, we want to get it down the hill on the other guy. Now, when I was a kid growing up, which is a long way back, those other guys were black, Native Americans, Asians, Hispanics, and to be quite honest and blunt about it, to a certain extent, women. White men were king of the hill. And if there were a few people up higher on the hill whose shit ran down on us, well, we could say, hey, we're pretty good because we got all this shit running off from us down to them. One of the things that's really changed in my lifetime is a belief that those people who are at the bottom shouldn't be there just because of gender, sexual orientation, or country of origin, and certainly not because of the color of their skin. And that has made a lot of people who used to feel pretty good about themselves because they could crap on others start feeling less good about themselves. You know, it's funny because a lot of those people are now saying they're nationalists. They use it like patriotism and nationalist are the same thing. They're not. A patriot wants his country to flourish. He wants his fellow countrymen, all of them, to flourish. A nationalist wants other countries basically to fail. They want to be the strongest. Sadly, the United States has always seen those two things as one, or maybe not always, but certainly since the Second World War. The end of the Second World War, America was using 95% of the world's resources. And let's be realistic about it, 90% of it were going to the white males. Okay? Now, other people in other countries, other people here in the United States, they want their share of those resources. And a lot of people are very, very angry that they aren't still getting the lion's share. Now, I'm not suggesting that the United States should try and feed the rest of the world, although it wouldn't be an awful thing if we did try and give more food help to countries in need. I'm not suggesting that we should take everybody who is insecure in their homeland to live in the United States, although I do think we probably ought to come up with a better method of giving out work visas from people from Central America. But no, I'm not about destroying our sovereignty. I am not about destroying our borders. I love America. I'm a patriot. I want us to be the best country in the world, but not at the expense of doing harm to others. And so I ask myself very often, how can I, as an American, taking part in this process, try and change it, try and heal us as a nation, so that we no longer are so concerned with being better than others at their expense, and no longer so concerned at having the shit run downhill here at home, but really being about lifting everybody here as well as we can. Now, I have to say, many years ago, growing up in New England, as most of you know, I did, one of the things is we had summer camps. My parents ran summer camps for kids. And one year at one of the camps, the septic system went. And we had to, in the middle of the season, dig a big hole in the ball field and put in new drainage for the septic system. And the thing about it was you can't play softball in a spot like that and not have the ball end up in the shed. And we didn't want our softballs ending up in the shed, obviously. Nor did we want some kid accidentally going after a ball, falling into that hole. So we would delegate people to stand out there in what was really far right field, the softball field, and stop the ball and if necessary, an errant kid from falling in. And I noticed that there were two types of people who ended up on that duty roster. Some were people who were so used to being shit upon that they really didn't notice another crappy assignment. For them, I feel very badly now when I think about them. The second group were people who were willing to do it because they didn't want others falling in the crap. Yeah, they really didn't. And so they were willing to put themselves out to keep others safe. Now, that's what I look for in a politician and a candidate before I vote. I don't find many politicians, many candidates I truly, truly support. There are a number that I end up voting for because I have a preference between A and B, but there are very few that I say to myself, wow, this person is one who will take the crap rather than letting me fall in it. I don't know who you voted for today. I hope you did vote, or perhaps like me, you voted early. I hope you care about what kind of a country you live in, and you affirm that to yourself by voting. Most importantly, I hope that when you go to vote, when you went to vote, when you go in the future to vote, you will think beyond just keeping yourself out of the crap, that you will think beyond having the crap flow downhill on somebody else, that you will think about, how do I keep others out of the crap? How do I make this world a better, a more equitable one for everybody? With that thought, as I say, I sincerely hope that you voted. I know that Monica did. I know that all of us here at It Matters Radio care tremendously about our country and our world. And we want to be part of the process that makes it a better one. I hope you feel the same. Have a great week.